Welcome to my channel. I'm Tanita, and today I've reunited with my former student's mom. Her and her husband has raised 4 happy and confident children, one of them being my former student. I wanted to catch up with her today to get her parenting blueprint. If it's working, yes, please share. Before we get into it, don't forget to subscribe to my channel and hit that notification button. I want to back up and kind of get your background, like who you are, you and your husband, your educational background, because I think this plays a part too, you and your husband, and then kind of like your family mantra and that keeps your family together.
Yeah. Well, this is probably going to throw you for a loop because me and my husband are total opposites. And people always go, how did you marry him? Because we are honestly total opposites. My dad and mom were always about us getting educated. My dad was what they call a menopause baby. All of his older siblings were 17, 18 years older than he was. My grandmother literally had him at 50. And his next sibling was a freshman at Fayetteville State University when he was born. So all of his siblings were much older and all went to college, but my dad did not. My mother was a teenage mom. She got pregnant with my older brother at 16. She graduated from high school. She married my dad at 18. And they set up shop. But my dad and my mom always wanted us to go to college, always. So I went to NC State, got a BA in history from NC State, taught school for a little while, decided that was not my thing. Decided that was not my thing, and went into actually started working for the police department. Decided I liked that, so I went back online and got my master's in criminal justice. My husband actually never graduated from high school. He dropped out in 11th grade. So we've known each other since we were 12. I've known him since I was 12 years old. He was 18 and a friend of my older brothers. They used to go, and we lived in the same neighborhood. Our parents actually knew each other. My mom went to school with his mom, and we got to know each other. And you know how you always have, the little kid has a crush on their big brother's friend. And, and he knew I had a crush on him. He would always joke around with me, and he would tell my mom, I'm gonna marry your daughter, this kind of stuff, just making my little heart happy. And I was a 12-year-old kid.
He was telling the truth.
But then I saw him one day with his girlfriend, and my heart was crushed because I was like, oh, he's got a girl. I'm 12 years old. Here he is with his girlfriend. And I'm like, oh, so, but then many, many years later, I was living in Raleigh at the time, had graduated from NC State, was living with my brother. We had an apartment together in Raleigh. He actually saw my sister somewhere and asked for my number, and he called my job actually. And it was the funniest thing because when he asked for me, I knew exactly who he was. Even though I had not heard his voice in years, I said, Chris Glover, where are you? And he said, you know who this is? I said, I know exactly who this is. And we started dating, and the rest is history. He said, I told your mom I was going to marry you one day. So we ended up getting married. Kenya came before the marriage. His big thing was we had to be married before she turned 1. So we actually got married July 5th, and her birthday was July 8th. So we literally got married 3 days before she turned 1. And so we had, raising our kids, we had pretty much had the same goal in mind, but from different perspectives. He wanted them to get an education because he didn't. And he knew how important it was to get it because he didn't want them to struggle like he struggled. And then I wanted them to get it just because I knew that if nothing else, education provides opportunities. You always have options. because it's like
Absolutely.
I always told them, I never felt like I had to stay in a job I was unhappy with because I had an education, which meant I had options. I could always go somewhere else. And that's what I
Absolutely.
wanted them to have, was options.
Mhm.
So but my agreement with them has always been, you will all go to college. If it's not for you, and you honestly believe it's not for you, and you have another route that you want to go, that you think, I'm for that, but you will go and you will try before you say no. And that was always my thing with them. And that was with anything they wanted to do.
Mhm.
Try it. If you don't like it and you honestly feel like it's not for you, then we'll go another route. I've never wanted them to feel like they had to stay in something because they started it. Because sometimes
Mhm.
things just are not for you. You think they are, and then they're not. So I didn't want them to feel like they couldn't say, let's go another route. I didn't want them to think they were failures because they had to go another route. So
Right.
that was my thing with them.
You know what, Tanya, that's amazing. You support them to try.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't like it, change course and figure out what you do like.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I love that. I had a parent that swear up and down that her child was going to go into finance. And I said,
Mm.
are you listening to him? He works on cars and he wants to be a pilot.
Right. Right. Yeah. Yeah.
What is happening? This little thing.
I don't
Okay.
know. I don't know.
Well, yeah. So I said, what is happening? I said, and she got upset with me. And she said,
Mm-hmm.
if you say this to my child, that he should go into being a pilot or working on, airplanes, then that's going to ruin. I said, that's your dream, not his.
Right.
He doesn't
Right.
want to be stuck behind a desk.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't think he is, because he's doing what he
Yeah.
wants to do. He's in school, but he's doing it. He's doing what he wants
Right.
to do in terms
Right.
of, look at
I
this.
don't know what that is.
We'll just roll with it. But he's doing what he wants to do. And she was a little upset when I had told her. I said, are you sure you want to do finance?
Right. Right.
Well, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah. And you mentioned like letting them ask why.
Mhm.
I had a friend once who she told me, we were having that conversation about that. And she was always like, you know, what I say goes. I don't know. No. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Oh, if you
Mhm.
say so. And she was like, you let your kids ask you why? Yeah, I
Mhm.
do. Because
Absolutely.
I don't want them to feel like in life that just because somebody's your boss and they tell you something that you got to do it. Because what if that boss is telling you something that's not legal? To
Mm.
do something that's not legal? Or what if that boss is telling you to do something that's going to violate somebody's civil rights? Or what if,
Yes.
you need to ask why, because you need to know why
Mhm.
you're doing what you're doing. And
Mhm.
I never had a problem with them asking me why, as long as they ask me
Mhm.
respectfully. Don't ask me
That's
with an
true.
attitude, and don't ask me with your neck rolling. But if you really honestly want to know why, I'll tell you why. I don't have a problem with that, because
Mhm.
I feel like if somebody can't tell you why they want you to do something, it's because what you're doing is not really above board anyway. So I didn't have a
Mm.
problem with my kids asking me why. I didn't have a problem. If they
Mhm.
needed to know why I told them education was important, then I told them why.
Mhm.
I told them about my mom who, had never really worked in her life. And then my dad decided at 27 years into the marriage, he didn't want to be there anymore. And she had no skills and she had nothing. And she didn't know what to do with herself.
Mhm.
And I told my daughters, that's why, because I don't want you to ever be in that position. I want you to be able
Listen.
to do things, and I told them why it was important that they do these things. And I hope
Mhm.
that those things have stuck with them. But as
Mhm.
far as like a family mantra, the only thing I've ever really told them, and that I hope has always stuck with them is you're only as good as your name. And
Mm.
not their last name, not their family name, but your name. You as Kenya Glover, as Chris Glover, as John Glover, as Tara Smith, you are only good as that name, because you have to be the kind of person that when you're not in that room and somebody speaks your name, that whatever they're saying about you, good or bad, somebody in that room is going to, I know Tara, that ain't quite what she would do. Or yeah, that's Kenya. She's she's a go-getter. She's a worker. She can do that. I want them to be able to say, whether you're in that room or not, when somebody speaks your name, I want them to know the kind of person you are. And so you are only as good
their
as
brand.
Right. And I told them, whether you have money, whether you're broke, whether you're, that name is what gets you places. So you need to make sure that your name is one that is spoken and people think of somebody who's honest and who works hard and who's going to be as good as their word. That's the only thing that you really, really have. And it's worked well because, Kenya, when she was in law school, she was they had like an honor court, and she was Supreme Court Justice of the honor court. And somebody challenged her.
Kenya.
Somebody challenged her and said that she'd done something unethical as a Supreme Court justice. And she didn't have any evidence that she hadn't done it. All she had was her word and her reputation. And because of that word and that reputation, whenever that person went to her superiors and to the professor that was over the honor court, they said, that doesn't seem like Kenya. So let me do some investigating on this. And it came out, it was a complete lie. The young lady who brought the charges was the young lady that she beat out for that position. And she basically wanted the position. So she, decided to challenge her. But because she had that reputation, because she had the name and had carried herself in the way that she should, they didn't believe it. They didn't take it at face value. They went back and they investigated it and found out it was a lie. So, and she told me, she called me and she said, Mama, you're right about being a good person and having a good name. And I told her, I said, baby, at the end of the day, that's the one thing nobody can ever take away from you is your name and your education. Nobody can take it away. So, it helped her in that instance. And, so I hope that's the one thing that they know is that you only have your name. If you don't have anything else, make sure that your name is one that can be spoken in a favorable manner all the time.
Wow, your brand and actually having integrity, which, I see sometimes, so I've been a teacher in education for 20 years and I always talk about that, having the integrity, doing the things you said you were going to do when no one is looking.
Right.
And that's very important, right?
And it is.
You're talking about the integrity and when things are in question, they know your integrity and know that that's not who you are.
Right.
I love that.
Right.
Now, phasing into this, Tonya, this is why, I wanted to talk with you because I think it was I don't know if it was my 7th or my 8th year in education. I had Christopher.
Yes. Mr. Chris.
7th grade.
Yes.
And when I first met him, I said, whoa, I like him. I like him a lot.
Yeah.
And they probably thought I was crazy too. They would laugh. They would say, you know what, you're kind of funny. And I think I was because I kind of just told them how I truly felt.
Right.
But I had high expectations, right? And I understood that people make mistakes and I'm going to make mistakes. So at this time, they kind of got me at a good time, not like my first year teachers, or like my first year students.
Right.
The first time that I had Christopher in my class, I love his personality.
Yeah.
He was himself. He was allowed to be himself, and he was
Mm-hmm.
confident and
Mm-hmm.
smart.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody liked to be around him because he
Mm-hmm.
spread joy
Mm-hmm.
and he took up for those that couldn't take up for
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
He loved sports. So I knew all of these things just because, he's just such a joy to be
Yeah.
around. And
Yeah.
he was a natural born leader.
Yeah. Yeah. He
And
is. He is. He is.
so what I internalized, I said, "Ooh, he got some good parents
Well, thank
because
you.
they are cultivating this whole being to
Mm-hmm.
have all of these different facets of himself
Mm-hmm.
and allowing him to be who he is, not
Mm-hmm.
pigeonholing him and say, you got to do this and this and
Mm-hmm.
this. He had
Mm-hmm.
different interests, and
He did.
his friends kind of resonated with that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't get too much in his friend business, um, but he could take a joke.
Oh yeah,
Tonya,
he
I think
could.
you remember this one time he was talking smack, and I said, "What?" And I wrestled him down to the ground. I was like, "Who are you talking to?" And it became a
Yes.
whole thing, like,
Yes.
"Oh, you
Yes.
trying to beat up Christopher." I said,
Yeah.
"Oh." It was all in fun, and he just let me
Yeah.
wrestle him. I'm like,
Yeah.
I wasn't supposed to do that, but
Yeah. Hey,
I
he was
had
all right with it, and I was too.
I had a good relationship with him,
Yeah.
and he knew I had high expectations
He did. He did.
for him, and I will say he did live up to them. And
Well,
one
thank
of the
you.
things I expected for him was to try and just to
Mm-hmm.
do better
Yeah.
than what you did the day before.
Yeah. 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 Christopher was. He was Christopher, but I think Christopher taught me a lot about the biggest lesson he taught me was don't try to make your kids be like the one before, because
Mm.
Kenya was all about school.
Mhm.
From she loved to read, she loved to do, I mean, anything school related, she was all about the business. And so when she left elementary, I sent her to 71st Classical, which,
Mhm.
as you know, academically, you got to be in there. You got to be ready. You got to, because it was a lot of work. It was, and so
Mhm.
with Chris, I said, that's a brother, same DNA. He can do it. Throw him in there. He hated 71st Classical because
Mhm.
it was too structured for him. It was just too much.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
for 2 years, sixth and seventh grade, I battled with him. And I battled with him. It was like,
Mhm.
I don't understand this, Chris. Why, but it was just not his thing. So I
Mhm.
said, and I kept repeating the same argument over and over again. You're not stupid. You can do the work.
Mhm.
You just like your sister. Y'all have the same DNA. You're nothing over and out. And
Mhm.
then one day he looked at me, he said, but I'm not her. And I
Mm.
said, ooh,
Mm.
okay. And that's how he said, but mama, I'm not her.
Mhm.
And I said, ooh, okay. So I said, okay, let me backtrack. I said, son, I'm going to take you out of there and I'm going to put you in regular school, let you go somewhere that
Mhm.
has like athletics, somewhere that you could. And he said,
Mhm.
really? I said, yes. So I took him out his 8th grade year, and he was so happy, and he did
Mm.
so much better, and it was so much better for him as a
Mhm.
child. It was just so much better for him. Um, and so I said, okay, I'm gonna have to look. And at that point, it was like, I'm gonna have to look at these kids as each individual person and
Mhm.
decide based on that where they should be and what they should do. And it was a
Mhm.
lot on me because, at the time, both schools were out of district. One was a year round, and then
Uh-huh.
Kenya went from 71st class goal, she went to what was then Howard Health and Life Sciences High School. So they were both out of district. I was working 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And so I was getting off at 7 o'clock. They were literally running out the house and jumping in the car. And I was taking them to school because they didn't have buses. They were both out of district. We were doing school of choice. So I had to drop them both off. Then I would come home and get a few hours sleep. And by 1:30, 2 o'clock, I'm back up, picking everybody up from school. So it took a lot, out of me because, I'm getting maybe an average of 5-6 hours of sleep a day and then working 12-hour shifts and getting up and doing it all over again. But I felt like I had to do it because there was no other way for them to get what they needed. Because Kenya needed to be someplace that was going to challenge her academically. She just that's what she needed. And they not only would challenge her academically, but she would able to get college classes, and she needed that. Christopher needed something else. He needed structure, but he needed that year round because I felt like he needed a break every 9 weeks. He needed 3 weeks to recharge and get himself together. So they needed it. So I did it because they needed it. And it wasn't easy, but for them, it worked and it had to be done. And then with John, same thing. He went to Ann Chestnut year round because he was just like his brother. Classical wouldn't have worked for him either. Those two boys were bookends. They were just alike. Christopher, John wanted to be Christopher. He wanted to be like his big brother. And Christopher, because Christopher had this, he always had that confidence about him. And Christopher was overweight as a child. And so we always made sure, because he was overweight and we knew people were going to make fun of him, and we knew he was going to we made sure that he knew that he was just the best thing walking. And
Tonya, let me interject. Let me tell you something. Nobody was looking at Christopher's weight. Nobody. Honey, he had the girls.
I know.
I mean, they was fussing over him.
I didn't expect that part. I did not expect that part.
I'm not trying to get no lover spat today.
I did not expect that part, but we did instill in him. I don't care what anybody says about your size. It doesn't matter, honey. You are still it. You are the man. And you need to know that you was the man in 7th grade. And we just wanted him to have that confidence about himself. And we would talk, and I would ask him, Chris, do people say things about you? And he said, yeah, but I don't care. It's the dudes, nobody think about them dudes. They all right, And he was always the kind of person, he never met a stranger. He always had friends. And that was another thing with him. With Christopher, he had friends, and then he had friends that I allowed him to be friendly with, but not be friends. Because, sometimes your friends are cool, but they're not always the best folks to be around. So there were friends that I allowed him to, be friendly with at school. They were teammates. They were, classmates. And you can hang out with them at school if that's what you want to do, But after school, weekends, you're not going to their house. You're not going to their parties. You're not spending the night over there. You're not, because they did not they didn't live the way that I wanted him to be.
Absolutely.
And he would always get upset. And I remember him being invited to a party, a Sweet 16, and he wanted to go so bad. And I said, absolutely not. You will not go. But that's okay, great. I'm glad that's your friend. But tell him happy birthday, but you're not going. You're not going. Next morning, after the party, we get up, somebody got shot and killed at the party. So I'm like I said, I'm glad y'all friends, but and he said, Mama, thank you for not, and so, there was, there was always people that he was for. Christopher had friends that were kind of on the edge, because he was on the edge. Christopher was just, he always pushed the edge. Always push the edge. He would get right to that edge, and then I'd have to yank his butt and say, I don't think so, sir. So his friends were always right down the edge. Some fell off the edge on the wrong side. So, with him, it was always a pulling back, because he, like I said, he never met anybody that he didn't like. So he would always hang with anybody. Chris would hang with anybody. And so, sometimes I have to say, I know you like him, but no, not that one. So, that was the thing with him. But John always wanted to be Chris.
I love that. So, Tonya, I want to go back to what you said. I think this is key with parenting and making sure, just as a educator, I see this a lot, right? And parents think that they're being overbearing because they don't want to choose their child's friend. But I think it's important that a parent need to help their child choose their friend.
It is. And I don't know that I chose them. I just controlled how much access they had to them. I didn't really choose them. I just kind of, you can hang, y'all can be cool, but only here, only where there's in a controlled environment. At school, there's teachers, there's principals, you're not going to do but so much. But you're not going to hang out with them after school. And no, you can't get a ride home with them because they may not stop. They may make a stop somewhere that you don't need to be. So no, you waited at school till I get there. Or you waited, and even that, Christopher was waiting for his sister to pick him up one day from high school for about his senior year. And he was out there with another friend, and another guy came up, another friend with his car. He offered to take them home. Christopher knew the rule. No, you don't. You wait for your sister. I don't care if she is running late. You wait for her. So he did. He waited for his sister. The other boy went with him, and they stopped at McDonald's. Unbeknownst to the other boy in the car, he was going there to try and rob somebody. He had posted on Craigslist or somewhere about a phone that he was selling. And when the guy came to buy the phone, he pulled a gun on him. And Christopher's friend that had gotten in the car with him for a ride home took off running and ended up getting shot in the leg. So when Christopher and my daughter come through on their way home and see it, they're calling me like, Mama, something happened at the McDonald's. There's police. And we find out it's his friend up there. And he's like, Mama, I was just there. He offered me a ride too. And I said, well, I see you didn't take it. He said, because I know you. And I said, you're right. You know me. I've always been, so they know I've always taught them, you know better than anybody else. You know better than anybody else. You treat the person mopping the floor just like you treat the person that owns the building. You are no better than anybody else. But you only allow people into your life a certain degree because they may not be for you. So you just control your access. You control the amount of access you give people to you. They don't have to be, you have to, because if you don't protect yourself, nobody else is going to. So I hope that they still do that. I think they do. I hope they do. And now, I can say that they all have like a close set of friends that they hang out with, and they are all fabulous people. Christopher's best friend is a police officer. They're just great people. They all hang around with some really, really good people. So hopefully, that remains the thing with them, because right now they're great. They all have great friends.
And so right now, Christopher, give me an update. I know he's a community leader.
Yeah, Christopher's thing was football. He wanted to play football. He wanted to go to the NFL, but Christopher, bless his heart, because of my genes and his daddy's genes, was just not tall enough for his position. He was a D lineman, and they needed him to be well over 6 feet. Chris is probably 5'8.5", baby. So, and he would go to football camps. I would take him during the summer. We would go to football camps, and he would always, show out, and he was always good, and he would always get. And so his senior year, he had a lot of invitations to go on recruiting visits. I actually quit my job and took a pay cut so that I could get a regular 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, so that I could take him on recruiting visits, because every Saturday he was invited to go somewhere. But in the end, he really he got a few offers from D2 schools. He didn't want to go to a D2 school. So he said, I'm gonna walk on somewhere. But then his grades did not let him walk on where he wanted to walk on. So he ended up not playing college ball at all. But again, like I told him, options, son. If you can't play, then do something else. Find something else you enjoy. So he started volunteering at the YMCA as a coach, and absolutely fell in love with it. He ended up getting hired at the YMCA in their after school program. One of the children there was playing ball on the weekends at for a nonprofit in the area. And Christopher went to a game, and somehow at that game ended up getting a job offer to coach. And he went to, it's a nonprofit in the area called Power Cross Ministries. They have an after school program. They pick the kids up and they do tutoring for 3 or 4 hours. They feed them dinner, and then they have practice, and they do all sports. And Christopher ended up there as a assistant coach. Then he worked his way up to head coach, and finally he is now their athletic director for their Salisbury location. And he is a football coach. He actually won the state championship this year, and then went to Tennessee and won the national championship there. And that was the first time. That was the first time in 10 years of going to the national championship that they've ever won. And he is the youngest coach to ever do it. And he was coach of the year. He was coach of the year for the Power Cross this year. So he has found his niche, and he is in it, and he is loving it. And all he wants to do now is coach kids. He loves it. He absolutely eats and sleeps it. So he's doing really well.
I wonder what did you tell him you were going to talk to me? But she's like, oh, she ain't going to talk to me first.
I did. And he was like, well, what's this about? I said, no, Chris, we are not going to tell everybody all your secrets. How you acted. No, your kids won't be able to go on here and find out that everything you telling them not to do, you probably did. No,
he was a great kid. He was a great kid. Yeah. I know he probably was thinking, wait a minute, she gonna go to my mama before she comes to me. Well, Christopher, I'm coming to you next.
He said to me, she didn't call me. And I said, well, she doesn't have to call you. He said, well, she didn't call me about it. I guess mama has to get his permission. I don't know.
See, he don't know how this works.
Right, exactly.
He don't know how this works.
Exactly.
Well, I can't wait to talk to him. Hopefully I can catch up with him too.
Oh,
I can't wait to talk to him.
Yeah.
I'm so proud of him.
Yeah, he's doing good.
And Tonya, you and your husband, I mean, the dedication that you have done, it is our responsibility as parents to steer our child into a healthy, thriving, as a healthy, thriving young adult. That's the
Mhm.
goal, because they're
Mhm.
only kids for a very short amount of time,
Right,
but
right.
they're adults longer. And I don't think
Mhm.
people understand that.
Right,
And what I
right.
heard you say from this conversation is you've even had to take a pay cut. You've even
Mhm.
had to switch, your job just so
Mhm.
that you can be able to help him find these
Right,
opportunities.
right, right. Definitely. And I tell them, there's nothing in this world I would not do for them to help them. If it's going to help them, if it's going to help them be successful, I'm down for it. And they know that. And I did. I took a pay cut and went to another job, just so that I could be there with him, and get him where he needed to go on the weekends. And my biggest thing is, as a parent, is regardless of what else you do, show up. Just show up. Because my kids, we get around when we don't see each other that much now, because everybody's at their four corners of the earth and they're doing. But when we get together and they start talking about stuff that we've done over the years, they talk about, like when Christopher talks about football, he doesn't really talk about the game so much. He talks about, he doesn't talk about the cleats he had on and, how much they cost, or he doesn't talk about any of that. But he can tell you play by play about the day that he intercepted the ball or ran it back for a touchdown, and how his mama ran all the way down the field with him. And then when he was in the end zone, mama was in the end zone. He can tell you that, work play by play. Kenya can tell you, how. And they all joke about me. They all say every event they have that I sit there and cry like a baby. And they're like, oh, mama's crying, and even now they text each other. They have we have a family group chat, and they sit there and text, mama's crying again. And everybody starts laughing because they all talk. And so the bottom line is, regardless of what you do, how much money you put in it, you may pay for, if you are not there, they can't talk about what you did and what they saw you do, because you weren't there. So, and that's what my kids talk about. They talk about, how their daddy always, when we went on college visits, he was always going around to the tables picking up free ink pens, because he loves to collect ink pens. They laugh about him like, daddy don't know nothing about what I'm gonna major in, but he got his ink pens. They laugh about that stuff. That's the kind of stuff that they know, because we show up. I even when I was working night shift, I can't tell you how many mornings I would get off and get straight in the car and sleep 2 or 3 hours, because Christopher was playing travel football and my husband's driving, and we're going to his game that's 4 hours away. And how I would sit there at that field all day, half sleep, cheering him on, and then get back in the car and get home just in time to jump back in my car and go to work. That was life. That was the way it was. But I wasn't gonna stay home and sleep and let somebody tell me about the tackles he made. I was gonna see him. That was always I would, it was, if nothing else, show up, because they don't care about anything else. They just want to be able to see you there. And that's one of the things that hurts me the most now when I go to Christopher's games, because I still drive 3 or 4 hours just to watch him coach. I go 3 or 4 hours just to watch him coach. And you get there, and I remember when he was little, the stands would be full of parents. And now there are barely any people there. The stands are almost empty. And I'm going, where are the parents? Where are these kids? And I asked Chris, and he's like, Mom, they don't come. He said, we have a select few that come, and it's not just on his side of the field, it's on both sides of the field. And I'm like, where are the parents? What is
they're on TikTok?
Yeah. And it's like, are you kidding me?
On Instagram, on Facebook.
Yeah, and I'm like, I
they're
don't
not
understand.
there.
Chris, I mean, I'm driving 4 hours just to see him walk up and down the field and coach, and your kids out there playing and you can't be here. It's not just like away games. even the home games, they're not there. And I don't
They're not
understand that.
there.
So it's like, that's my biggest thing. Show up for your kids.
Show
Show
up.
up for your kids. Because if you don't do anything else, and if you think about it, when you talk to kids, or when you talk to children that are now adults and they have issues with their parents, one of the biggest things they say is, you were not there. You were not there. And my kids will never say, I was not there. They may say, you embarrassed me when you were over there with the other mamas and y'all were doing cheers on the sidelines, because we used to be the cheerleaders. And they would be like, Mama, please sit down, please. Or, I wish you hadn't yelled that loud. Or why don't you stop crying? But you'll never say, I was not there. Because
Absolutely.
I'm going to be there, and they know
Absolutely.
that if there's any kind of way in the world that I can show up, I'm showing up.
Absolutely.
And that's the biggest thing.
Wow. So Tonya, I love this because y'all are 4 for 4.
Yeah.
Now I saw on Facebook, because we're Facebook friends,
Yes.
that John has moved. He has achieved another level of a success.
He has.
And so we have Kenya, the attorney. We have Chris, the coach. And now we have John.
Yeah. Now John is in Bristol, Connecticut. He just accepted a job with ESPN in their associate producer program. It's a 2-year program. And then at the end of that program, they'll select 5 of them and keep them. And then the other ones will branch out and go somewhere else. So John, it is really funny. John was born with what's called tetralogy of Fallot, which is a heart disease. At 7 days old, he had about a 9-10 hour heart surgery. And then he had to have another one at 4 months old. And then over the years, he's had stents put in. He has some other things. And then the summer before his senior year of high school, he had another open heart surgery for a valve replacement. So he has always had that issue, but he has never let that stop him. And with John, he is really, I always asked him what he wanted to be, and he was like, oh, I'm not sure. He kind of, and then he said, I want to be a producer. And I'm going, oh, Lord, here we go. And I'm like, John, you know absolutely nothing about music, and he's like, but Mama, I can make beats. And I'm going, okay. And so he didn't have the best grades in high school. He started applying to colleges, and I'm like, son, you may not get in where you want to get in, but you'll get in somewhere. I said, you'll have probably better luck with private schools because they don't have to go through the state guidelines on what so he got in at Shaw University. And we went to orientation, and he had put down that he wanted to do music, not realizing that music to them meant, you play an instrument, you're going to do. And so we go to orientation. I'm like, son, you can't do any of this. They had him in piano and all. I'm like, you can't do any. Hold up. So we had to backtrack. And we talked to one of the counselors there, and she said, well, it sounds like communications would be better for you because that's more along the lines of what you're trying to do. So he went into communications, and he ended up really, really liking it. He and 3 other friends, he met his best friend there. And his best friend and 2 other students created a podcast called Down in the Den. And
Down in the Den.
Yes, which was in their student center. They had a little place called the Den where the students hung out. So that's where they did the podcast, and they really caught on.
That's genius.
It really caught on. They ended up interviewing Erica Alexander from Living Single. She came through and they interviewed her, and my son knew I loved her, so he tried to FaceTime me, and I didn't pick up. So she left me a video telling me, she loved John, and she was gonna take him and raise him herself, and it was really sweet. And they sent a pilot to Sirius XM, and Down in the Den actually got picked up by Sirius XM. So John and he and the other group, they all graduated and passed it on to another set of hosts, but they were honored by the school for their part in getting it picked up by Sirius XM. And then one of his old professors told him about the ESPN job, and he applied. And not only did he get picked up, but his best friend also got picked up. So they actually moved to Connecticut together. And my husband took him up, drove the U-Haul up and got him settled in and everything. And he's really enjoying it. Yeah. And he absolutely loves doing what he does. He's done some music videos for some friends that are doing some stuff, and he does podcasts for people. He gets hired to do other things outside. And I told him to, continue to do that, continue to do your outside stuff, as well as, your job at ESPN, and just, keep going. And he's found his thing, and he loves it. Yeah, he loves
Tonya, this is so amazing. It's like you are really, and this is what I see, and this is what I know to be true based off of what I've observed over 20 years. You are literally saying, take what you love and do it.
Yeah.
And, if this is what brings you joy, then there is some way that you can capitalize off of this and make this
exactly
a lifestyle for you.
Exactly.
And guess what? You don't have to go to Harvard to the Yales. Pick a place that is for you and thrive in that place.
Right. And that was the thing with Kenya, especially because she was so smart. Everybody was like, oh, she got a free ride to Livingstone College, which is a small private HBCU in Salisbury, North Carolina. And that's where she wanted to go. She went and visited. She loved the school. That's where she wanted to be. And, I had family and friends going, are you going to let her go there? Why? She needs to go, she needs to go somewhere big. She needs to go to a Carolina, or you went to state, send her to state.
No, she don't need to go to
she needs to go where she wants to go. And I told her, I said, it really, and she, to some degree, she was like, Mama, everybody keeps saying, I'm like, don't listen to everybody. Listen to you. This is where you feel comfortable. And I told her, I said, baby, it doesn't matter where you go to undergrad. It doesn't matter. You go where you feel comfortable. It does not matter. And so she went, and the opportunities that they gave her there were unmatched. I feel like she really, really went there and she made her own path. She was student body president. She, they let her, they picked her to go on the HBCU show, the, goodness, what's the name of it, with our nephew Tommy, Black College Quiz Bowl. She made it all the way to the championship round. She didn't win, but she made it all the way. She made it all the way to the championship round. And she just did so much there. And it really, really helped her. And when she went to Campbell Law, and she said, all these kids, here, they went to Carolina, they went to Duke, I said, so I said, and I told her, I said, when you leave, they're going to be like, where's Livingstone?
Absolutely.
And they were,
on the map.
She went there, and like I said, she was honor court justice. She was an editor for Law Review. She got published in Law Review. She was the only minority to graduate with honors. She did her thing, and I told her, I said, it doesn't matter where you go. It's you. It's what's in you and what you make of it. So she was really, really successful. And, now she's enjoying her life. She did 2 years at legal aid in Robeson County, and she enjoyed that. But now she's a family law attorney in Charlotte. with a law firm there. And she really, really, really enjoys her job. She does. And I will say that one of the things I like most about her is she's not motivated by money. When she got the job in Charlotte, she'd been offered a job that almost doubled the salary of what she was offered at this place. She didn't take it, excuse me, because she felt like it would not allow her the space to really, she said, I'll spend my days researching and not in court. She said, I can't go from being in court almost every day to sitting in a room researching this for somebody else. I can't do that. And so she wanted to be where she, and I'm like, but that's a lot of money, Kenya. She's like, I don't care, And I'm like, oh, okay. All right. If that's what you want to do, go for it, baby. And so, and she hasn't looked back, and she likes it, And so I thank God that I raise kids that aren't motivated by money, who want to do something that means something to them. And she really, truly, truly is doing what she loves to do, and is not motivated by the dollar.
Because the money's going to come. Right. She knows that if she took that big money job, she wouldn't have the opportunity to grow into what she wanted to become as a professional. Right. But going back to what you're saying and being grounded and having them to understand who they are and their worth.
Right.
And what I love, Tonya, all of them went to HBCUs. Yep. Every single one of them.
They sure did.
I don't, and you went to NC State.
I did. I did.
So, what gets me is that Black parents think that they have to send their kids to PWIs to be successful.
Yep. And my thing was, when I was in school, like I said, neither of my parents went to college. And all of my dad's siblings did, but he was not, because of the age gap between them, he was not really close to them. So when I grew up, I didn't see them a lot. I saw more of my mom's family, but most of them did not go to college either. My older brother went to East Carolina. So, and at my high school, my counselor, she was like, oh, you're so smart, you need to go. And so she never pointed me toward any HBCUs. Never. It was always, oh, you need to go to State. You need to go to Carolina. You need, And so I was like, oh, okay. I can do that, And so I apply. And don't get me wrong, I loved NC State. I loved it. Enjoyed my time there. But whenever my children went to their HBCUs and I saw the culture, and I'm telling you, I was jealous. I was like, man, I should have went to HBCU. I said that to myself over and over again. I was like, man, I really should have went to an HBCU, because I see the value. And I wish that I had. And if I had to do it all over again, I would. And I'm glad that they did. I really, really am. And once Kenya went, and Christopher followed Kenya to Livingstone, John went to Shaw, and then Tara's now at A&T. And I'm telling you, I would not want them anywhere else than where they're at or where they went. It's nothing like it. And people say, oh, you can still go to a PWI, you're gonna be Black wherever you go, and you don't go to you go to an HBCU, you don't get reality,
you get reality.
Whatever.
You get reality.
You get it real. You get reality. They're not going to sugarcoat it for you. They're going to tell you just what it is. And I'm glad. And I'm really, really glad that they went to an HBCU. I wouldn't have it any other way for any of them. Yep.
I am a HBCU grad, and I went to a predominantly white high school, and I said no more.
Right.
I'm done with this. I am completely done. All of my college apps was to HBCUs. And I just so happened not to go to Clark Atlanta because I was like, nah, this tuition is too much for me.
Right.
But I absolutely enjoyed going to Winston-Salem State because I knew it had a STEM program. And I'm like, I have to go somewhere with a really good track to STEM because I'm going to do something in science. At the time, I was going to do physical therapy, but when I got in there, it was that year that they said, okay, we're changing physical therapy from bachelor's to master's, and you had to do an undergraduate. So I decided to become a biology major. And let me tell you something. It is the best experience. I then went on to, I did a postbac at Wake Forest and did some grad work at University of Arizona. It's nothing like it. And I was able to thrive because of my HBCU. I took my notebooks from there to the other institutions so I can understand what I was I was learning.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
and people, they can say what they want, but it offers a foundation for our children that they just don't get anywhere else. And I even the relationships that they build, because my children have lifelong friends that they are going to have forever and ever and ever. And I don't have that from NC State. I really don't. I don't have that. I have friends that I see, you know, every now and then, and it's, hey, how are you? Even with my sorority sisters, because I joined the sorority. There's only one that I really still see and have contact with, and that's because we live in the same area and we're in the same graduate chapter. So the bonds that, I mean, because people say, oh, you have to, you struggle, the dorms aren't that good. Let me tell you something.
That's the HBCU life, baby. You got to go through it.
Exactly. Look, that struggle makes you closer. There is nothing better than having to sit up there with your girlfriend and have to warm up them ramen noodles and do it. That's what makes you close. That's what, but my kids always say they were kind of sheltered. They went to an HBCU, but they never did the ramen noodle thing. They don't even eat them because, and I will say that was our fault because we were kind of, we didn't let them struggle. We did. They just didn't struggle.
Well, we had ramen noodles.
My Kenya hates them. She wouldn't eat one to save her life. But I say to them, I wish I had the type of friends that you guys have, because they've got folks that are going to be with them forever. Like John, and we call him Day Day, his best friend, that moved to Connecticut with him. My husband was just talking last night about how close they are and how he said those two, he said, I'm telling you, he said, to see their relationship, they genuinely are good friends, and their girlfriends are best friends. And so the four of them together are like, it's just amazing. They sat around my table at Christmas. I had all four of them here, and they sat around my table at Christmas, and I just sat there and watched them and the dynamic. And they were here with Christopher and his girlfriend, and just the six of them just sitting here at the table all afternoon, playing games and laughing and giggling. And the closeness is just amazing. And and that's one of the things I think if there is one thing I'm most proud of about my kids, is not all the success that they have, is the fact that those four talk every day. They are the best of friends. They talk to each other every single day. They may not talk to us, but they talk to each other every single day. I can't tell you how many times I've had to put the group chat on silent at night because they're going back and forth all night long with each other, laughing and talking about this, that. And I'm like, okay, y'all, this is enough.
Look, they privy you into the conversation. They do. I love it.
Now, don't get me wrong, they got their own little secret chat that they do. But then, where they talk about us. But most of the time they put things in the group chat, and they talk all the time. And when one needs, they all need. They look out for each other so much. It is just so good. Like when Kenya got sick, Her senior year at Livingstone, she got really sick. And she was in the hospital for 4 months. When she came home, she was still had a nurse that came by, every other day or so. When she got home, she had a wound on her that needed to be cleaned because she had had surgery and it was a deep cut. Her brother John every day would go in there and clean that wound and dress that wound for her and cook her breakfast and cook her lunch and make sure that she had whatever she needed every single day. While we were at work, he took care of her. And it got to the point where when I'd come home, she didn't want me. She wanted John. She wanted him to, and he took care of her. He made sure that she was all right. They take care of each other. A lot of times they take care of things and we don't even know that there's an issue because they take care of it amongst each other. They every day they love each other. They don't, if they argue, it's over little silly stuff, but they don't have any issues with each other that might make them not want to speak or not. They are just the best of friends, all four of them. And when they get together, me and their daddy need to leave because it's just loud and it's silly and it's crazy. Yeah, but they absolutely love each other and take care of each other.
Tonya, what do you think was the ingredient for that to happen that you and your husband instilled in them?
I think I think it's because we made sure that regardless of what was going on, we made sure they put each other first. We taught them, I don't care who your friend is. I don't care who your cousin is. That's your brother. That's your sister. They come first. If you got, you don't give anything to anybody else unless you're sure your brother or your sisters don't want it. That was just always what we told them, and we always made sure they supported each other. So if Christopher had a game, nobody stayed home. We were all at the football field. Everybody went. If Kenya had something going on, nobody stayed home. We all went.
We're supporting. We're all supporting.
Yeah, we go. Everybody went together. It was not an optional. Well, I don't really feel like it. Why can't no? Your brother's got something going on. Your sister's got something going on. Let's go. We all, I made sure they supported each other, and so now they're still that way. It's somebody like when Christopher had his Christmas party for his job, we were all there. So we all were there to see him get the coach award, even though he didn't know he was getting it. We were all there, because he said, well, we're having our Christmas party. We knew that they were getting their championship rings that night. We knew that they were going to give them their championship rings from the season. So we all went to see him get his ring. And then he ended up getting coach of the year. And that was just icing on the cake. But we were all there. John drove in from Raleigh. We came from Fayetteville. Kenya came from Charlotte. And we all went to Mooresville or wherever it was. We all went. And, that's just the way we do. When somebody's got something going on, we're all there. And that's just the way it works. Yeah.
Because in today's world, I hear this a lot. Parents are raising their children to be individuals.
Yeah.
And being individualistic. Now, understanding that when you're no longer on this earth, you can cultivate a relationship amongst the siblings.
Right.
They will be able to thrive and carry on the traditions and have a set of best and besties.
Right.
But you do, I'm hearing these parents, if they don't want to, that's okay. That's okay. Nope. I hear the terms, lonely. Oh, I'm an introvert. I don't have to. It's just like, what? You need to support each other.
Well, you do because, my mom died at a young age. She died at 47. And if it had not been for my sisters and my brother, I would have been lost. We have each other, and we are not nearly as close together as my kids are. John now was the furthest one away. And that's a whole nother story in itself. That is just like, heart wrenching for him to be that far away. Why can't get to him in an hour or two? But and he's the first one to branch out like that. But with that being said, I know that they will always, always, always have each other. Christopher and Kenya are probably the closest two together right now. I think they live about maybe 20, 30 minutes apart. And he's always at her house, helping her do whatever, she was fussing the other day and she called me because he took her Christmas tree out and to the dumpster. She had a live tree. She's like, Mama, he made such a mess. He put water on the floor. And I'm like, but he got the tree out. She's like, yeah, but he was like, well, at least you know where the tree was. And, she's like, he just messed up my floor. And I'm like, well, you'll be all right,
You'll be
but,
okay.
he's always there to, he comes and helps her carry stuff up the stairs to her apartment. He's always around. And then she, invites him over to dinner. And, they always right there for each other. And when John was at Shaw, Kenya was in law school in Raleigh. He'd go to her house to do his laundry. And, they've always been really, really close to each other. Tara now, with her being in college, it's funny because Tara's always been real introverted. And she wasn't one to like go out and do a lot. Her first week at A&T, she posted a picture on Instagram of her in a sundress, and it had little spaghetti straps. And my phone starts blowing up, and I look, and it's the boys. What are you doing? Where do you think? Do I need to come up there? And I'm like, okay, here we go. And they're like, okay, you need to calm down up there. Do we need? And I'm like, y'all, it's a sundress. The dress literally almost went to her ankles, but it just had spaghetti straps, and they flipped out. So, it's a whole thing with those boys being protective of their sisters, but they love each other, and I'm glad they do.
Now, can you touch on Tara? What is she majoring in at A&T?
Tara is majoring in marketing. She has an associate's in graphic design that she got when she was in high school. So she graduated with an associate's in graphic design and then her high school diploma. She's a Dowdy scholar at A&T, so she got a full ride.
Come on now.
To A&T.
And look, Tonya, they be talking about HBCUs don't give out scholarships.
Oh, they give out the scholarships that she got. They actually did she's in the Honors College. The Honors College actually gives out 30 full rides, just the Honors College. They have 3. They have the Cheatham White Scholars, the Dowdy Scholars, and the February 1 Scholars. It's 3 different organizations. They give out 10 to each. And they have what's an honors weekend where they invite all the high school seniors who have been admitted to the Honors College and who made it to that final selection process. They invite them up for the weekend, and they do interviews. And then they pick 30 of the Honors College to receive full rides. And so she was one of the 10 that was selected for the Dowdy Scholarship. So she got a full ride. We bought her a new computer. They reimbursed us for the computer. Yeah, it was awesome. She had also received some other scholarships on the, just on her own, because Tara was doing so much that she was putting in for so much money and so many I didn't even know she was doing it. And now she actually takes time, like for high school seniors who are trying to do the same. She takes time to edit essays and help them do their college applications and all of that. So she is trying to help other people. Tara is really, really, she's really crafty. She loves to knit. She loves to crochet. She makes all kinds of stuff. She loves to paint. She loves to draw. And her graphic design, she is just awesome at it. She won an award when she was at Fayetteville Tech. They had a contest. They were making a poster for a law firm that was doing a clinic for people that were trying to get their records expunged. And so she made a poster and won. And her poster was what they used to help bring people to the clinic. She is just really, really talented, and she is. I can't wait to see what she does. But she said she wants to use her talent to help nonprofits. She wants to help market, and yeah, that's what she wants to do. Which
so
shocked me. I
sweet.
didn't know that, but yeah, I didn't find that out until actually the weekend that we went to A&T for her to interview. She was talking actually to the chancellor, and he asked, what she wanted to do with it. And she said she wanted to help nonprofits. And then she starts talking about the different nonprofits that she wants to work with and and I'm standing there with my mouth open because this is my child. Excuse me. This is my child that never talks. She's real quiet. Tara, you forget she's in the house because she's just so quiet all the time. And then all this stuff comes spilling out, and I'm standing there like, oh, wow, okay. So she's real quiet and real reserved, but she is really smart. And she's the one that it comes to her naturally. She doesn't study. It just comes to her. And Kenya always says, I said, well, Kenya, you and Tara, my little brainy, she said, yeah, but I have to study. Tara doesn't have to study. It just kind of, and it just comes to her. She just, but she doesn't mind helping other people. And she's always trying to make sure that everybody's good. Yeah.
So every single one of them have a good heart. Let me ask you about Tara. When did she start looking for scholarships? Did she start like her junior, sophomore year?
You know what? I want to say the summer before her junior year, she started looking, because she started mentioning some stuff, and she started asking questions. But then the summer before her senior year, she really, really started. But she was one of those. She was like, you have to get started early, mama. Start applying early, start applying early, start applying early. So that's what she did. And she was real organized with it. She had like her little sheet that told her when everything was due and, what she needed to do for everyone. And she kind of checked it off as she got it done. She was real organized with it. And that's another thing about her. She's always been really organized. But she, and a lot of the research and stuff she did completely on her own.
That's amazing.
Yeah, she did a lot of it completely on her own. And by the time that I started asking her about it, she was like, that's done. I'm like, oh, okay, well, do I need to do anything? And the only thing she really asked me to do was she did ask me to come in with her and talk to her counselor about, what she needed to do as far as financial aid, because with Tara, her situation was a little different because biologically she's my sister. And so I raised her, since she was 3 years old. I've been her legal guardian. So her financial aid packet and everything had to go a little different than the other kids. So she wanted me to come in and make sure that I understood what needed to be done and that kind of thing. But that's really all I ever had to do with her. Yeah.
Wow, Tara, you are just phenomenal.
She
And
is.
probably too, it helps that Kenya is on track. She sees Christopher, she sees John. This is what it's my turn now.
Right.
So I might as well get on it.
Right. And I think too with Tara, she was really motivated because she was concerned as far as financial aid. She didn't know how much she'd be able to get as not being my child, biologically, or being adopted legally. She was afraid that she wouldn't have the funds. So she was, just really she was kind of obsessed with making sure she had the money, because she really, she knew what she wanted to do. And so and it was funny because she actually went into A&T as a junior, and she said, I'm not being cheated out of my 4 years. I'm going the whole 4 years. I'm going to double major. I'm not going to be cheated. I'm getting all 4 of my years. They all 4 paid for, and I'm getting them. I said,
that's
go
it.
for it, baby, if that's what you want to do. So now she's trying to decide what her second major is going to be. Probably business, more than likely. But she's trying to decide that now. But she's doing good. She's got a 4.0. She made chancellor's list. She's on it. So she's doing good.
I love this mindset, Miss Tara.
Yeah,
I love
she's on
it.
it. She's on it.
And
definitely.
I know some really good people that's doing very well for themselves from North Carolina A&T. I mean, we can joke inside the HBCU world, but A&T is pumping out some excellence.
Yeah, and my kids her siblings give her a hard time about A&T all the time. They're like, you up there with the rich people, and it's not you up there that big school with all the nice stuff. Y'all don't know what it is to struggle. And, they give her a hard time.
Yeah,
they give her a hard time. They tell her, oh, you up there. They call it a cult. They say you in the Aggie cult. Y'all get brainwashed. Aggie pride. Yeah, they give her the worst time.
We are all crazy about our HBCUs, but I do try to encourage parents. I go, if your child is going to engineering, I'm not understanding why North Carolina A&T is not on your list to check out.
Right. And John had a friend when he was a senior that was an engineering mate. He wanted to be an engineer, and he wanted to go to NC State. And I honestly tried to sway him not to go to NC State. And I tried to explain to him, and his mom got fiery, and she was like, oh, so you trying to tell my son? And I said, I'm not trying. I'm just trying
to NC State grad.
My experience, and tell him that I think it would be better to go to an HBCU. I'm just giving him my experience. He did end up going to NC State. I'm not sure how well he's doing now or anything, because he and John don't talk as much anymore. But I honestly, tried to tell him, I went to NC State. I love the school, but for me, if you are a Black or brown person, you need to, and I'm speaking as someone who went to a PWI and someone who had children who did not. And I've seen both worlds, and I kind of know. And so I would not recommend my children to go anywhere else. I honestly would not.
Right.
I would not.
Well, let me tell you something. My baby girl, she got about 100 of them to choose from.
So I know that's right.
She will be taking her little body to an HBCU.
Right. I know that's right. Yeah.
So she got 100 of them to choose from. I would love for it to be Winston-Salem State, but if not, that's okay. You got 100 of them.
Right. Yeah. Choose one. Yeah. Choose one. Exactly. Yep. Exactly.
Tonya, let me ask you this. What are your thoughts on the educational system today from a parent's perspective?
It's a mess. It's a mess. I think I don't think now, I think they teach too much to test. And I always say I can remember things that I was taught in second grade, third. I can remember those things, but you ask these kids now to remember something they, were taught 5 or 6 years ago, and they can't, because they teach to testing. They want to see numbers. They want, and sometimes the numbers don't reflect really what the child's learning. I don't think.
I agree.
Kids need to, for one thing, they have to learn their own pace. And if you're trying to teach to make sure you're at this benchmark by this date, you're losing somebody. And they're not caring about the ones they're losing. They're just, as long as they get those numbers, they don't care who they're losing. And some of these kids are getting lost.
They're
And
getting lost in
when
the
they
sauce.
get lost and there's nobody there to help them get back on track, that's when they get to the point where they just don't care anymore, or they think they're dumb and they want to give up. And if there's not somebody there to pick them up, then there's a problem. So and we have to advocate for kids. Parents have to make sure that they don't listen to everything they're being told. Just because somebody says your child is ADHD, just because they won't sit still, doesn't mean they're ADHD. They tried to, that the same occurred with Christopher in kindergarten. They wanted to put him on medication because they said that he was ADHD because he wouldn't sit still. No, that doesn't mean he's ADHD. That just means he's an active child. He likes to move around. But
he's an active child. He does not have ADHD.
Right.
And I've taught Chris.
And they wanted to put him on medication. I said, no, you're not. No. You won't have my child sitting in class like a zombie, all medded up, and I'm not saying that some kids don't need it, because some do, but he didn't. And I'm not going to let you, right. And what I'm going to do is teach him that he needs to sit his butt down and listen. But we're not going to do this with medication. So, and then it got, it was a lot going on with him, and he was a mama's boy. He was just like, he would have these days where he didn't want to be there because he wanted to be home with me. So once again, here's mama going to class and sitting in the class half asleep because you worked all night, because he needed me to just be there with him a couple hours in the beginning and then say, I'm going home, but I'll be back, and but that's what I did because that's what he needed. But you're not going to put him on medication. We're not going to do that. But, this is what he needs. So that I'll do that. But I'm not letting you just medicate him because it makes it easier for you during your day. You're not going to do that.
I agree.
So, that's the thing. I think with education, we need to be real careful about the way we label kids.
Absolutely.
And the way that we, make sure that you're not losing them, because I think now, and it's not the teacher's fault, because, they're being judged by these ridiculous guidelines. You're not a good teacher if you don't meet, whatever percentage of your kids don't meet this. That's not the case. Just because you didn't meet the benchmark or whatever doesn't mean you're not a good teacher. It means your kids need some more guidance. Maybe, you've got to be able to have the freedom to do that. You got to be able to have the freedom to say, okay, they don't understand this, so I'm gonna have to spend a few more days on it, without somebody coming in and going, you're supposed to be past this by now. You need to catch up, and I think we go too much now by the test and what the statistics show, and it's a mess. To me, it is a mess.
I agree with you. It's a hot mess. It is a hot mess. And, once I left Cumberland County, I went into informal, education as a museum educator, a STEM one. And I kind of had the breath to work with a set of students on my own terms.
Right.
Cultivating curriculum and seeing students from 9th through 12th grade, like even in their 9th grade year, and then seeing them graduate and seeing the progression. And one thing was that there wasn't any standards of no test. It was just, let's have fun and let's learn. And they enjoyed that, and they learned a lot about themselves.
Right.
But I agree with you. I agree that it's a hot mess, and parents have to get a little bit more involved in their children's lives, and they have to practice what they preach. A lot of parents are not doing as they say. They're saying as they're doing. They're saying, do as I say, not do as I do.
And like when John was in elementary, John had extreme anxiety, and they would talk about They would do like the benchmark testing, and they would talk about it so much in class, and just talk about it, that when it came test day, he had so much anxiety that he would get physically sick. He just couldn't,
Mhm.
he would get physically sick. And so I think in maybe his fourth grade year, he had the best teacher, the absolute best. Her name was Kim Weaver, and she was just the best. And she would like have him leave whenever she wanted to talk about the test. She would send him on an errand or whatever, and he never heard any of the talk about it. She would just, and then they would take the test, and she would joke around with him and just let him. He never got anxious or nervous, and he would pass them with flying colors because he wouldn't get sick, he wouldn't get. And it was so funny because her son and John ended up being the best of friends, and he would go to her house and spend the night. And to this day, they are the best of friends. And, John came home. When he came home for Christmas, he went to her house, and they have always, just been really, really close. But she was the best with him because she would just always make him feel at ease, because he had the worst anxiety about those things, because they would talk about them so much, and oh, they're so important, and you can't pass, and if you don't pass them, you're gonna flunk your grade. And he would get he would throw up, and he would just shake, and it would just make him so upset. And she was like, it's, no biggie. You got this, all this stuff. You just gonna write down what you know. And, and he would pass with flying colors every time. But she recognized that in him and took the time to say, okay, this child's gonna need something different. He's gonna have, I'm gonna have to do something different with him. And she took the time to notice that and to do something about it. And that's the kind of things that we need. We need educators that realize that every child that sits in the chair is not the same child. And every child is going to need something different. And, even with you, with Christopher, you knew Christopher wasn't the average little boy. He was going to be a different kind of kid. So
he was above average.
You knew you had to wrestle him every now and then. You knew that. And he remembers you. And he remembers you in a good way. Not all teachers. And I'm gonna tell you one of the best days I've ever had as a mom. He had a teacher at 71st Classical who was always kind of negative when she talked about him. Always, he's this, he's that, he's not gonna do this.
I don't care if I say this, I ain't like some of them.
You were not. You're not.
I didn't like some of them because if you don't like these kids that look like me,
right,
I have an issue.
Well, but here's the thing: she looked like him. This is what made me.
I think I know who you talking about. Go ahead.
She looked like him. And one of the best days I ever had, I saw her. Our sorority was putting on a function, and she ended up at the function. And she said, "How's Christopher?" And one of the best days I ever had in my life was telling her, "Oh, he's great. He's a junior in college. As a matter of fact, he's vice president of the student body. He's doing great." And watching the look on her face, because she just, thought my child would never, she had pretty much written him off because he was Christopher, And so that was one of the best days of my life, just letting her know, and that's my thing. And that's why I always tell Christopher, you can do as their coach, as their friend with these kids, because he gets discouraged sometimes, because a lot of his kids end up getting in trouble or getting hurt, and he gets discouraged. And I tell him, it doesn't matter. You do a lot for them and you reach them, but you're only with them so many hours of the day. If they don't have it at home, if they don't have somebody reinforcing what you're doing at home, then you're in trouble. And so what we tried to do, and what we always did, I was never one of those that just because the teacher said it, that's the way it is. And that's, I was never one of those. I could not be one of those because, my kids had to feel like they could tell me what was going on. And I won't, because a lot of times kids, they'll clam up when they know I don't care what I say. She's not going to believe me. She's going to believe, somebody else. So I would always take what my kids said, then take what the teacher said, and we sit down and figure out what the truth was together. Because, sometimes your kid's not always wrong. And sometimes, and you can't, just because a person of authority says it, doesn't mean that it's always the truth. So I always try to let them know, okay, I don't care what's going on. You tell me, and then we'll figure it out. Now, if you're wrong, I'm going to put my foot in your butt. You know that.
Yeah.
If you're wrong, I'm not supporting you. I'm going to let you know you're wrong, and we're going to fix it. But if you're right, I'm going to go to bat for you, and we're going to fix it. Either way, it's going to get fixed. I'm not going to, and they have to realize, it's so funny because on Facebook a few months ago, they had a question on there, if you went to jail, who would you call first, mama or daddy? And all my kids said, daddy, 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 daddy. I said, why would y'all call your daddy first? What did I do? What, mama? And this is Christopher. He says, I would imagine if you were in jail, you'd only have like 5 minutes or so to make a call. If I call you, you're not going to know where I am. You're not going to know how much the bail is. You're not going to know how you can help me, because that whole 5 minutes is going to be you cussing me out about the fact that I'm in jail. And I'm not going to get a word in. He said, so why am I going to call you? He said, I'll call daddy, because daddy will find out how he can help me, what he can do, and then I'll deal with you when I get bailed out. He said, but I'm not calling you because you're going to cuss me out the whole time. Boy, I told you. And then what did you do? And he said, I don't have time for that, mama. He said, I need daddy. And that's always the way it's been with us. My daddy is, their daddy is the calm one. He's the one that goes, okay, bro, what's going on? Why are you doing that? I mean, this is not you. He's that one. And I'm the one, I'm so sick, and I'm going to tell you, and this is what you're going to do. And so, they're like, so no. My sons have lead feet. They get speeding tickets. They never call me.
Me too. Not anymore, though.
They have, I'm telling you, John, that child, I told him one more, and he's walking. Everywhere he goes, he's walking, because I'm taking his car and I'm parking it in the yard, because this boy has a lead foot. But they never tell me when they get a ticket. They tell their daddy. Because he has this philosophy: as long as you don't ever get a DUI, I'm okay. I'll deal with it. I'm like, I don't care what kind of ticket it is. You don't get tickets. So, they call their daddy, because he's always the calm, level-headed one. I'm the one that flies off the handle and then has to call him back later and say, okay, I'm sorry. I got a little worked up. Okay, what's going on and what we need to do? But I'm going to get it out first. And they know that. Yeah.
You know what? That is a good balance. And I will say this. I had some issues with how some of the teachers their perception. And I think just being a Black woman and understanding how I need to show up for the children, especially those that look like me.
Right.
What that really meant. And also, like you said with Christopher, I also understood that I make mistakes. I'm going to say some things that, hey, look, I might need to take a little step back and be like, what did I just say? And that's how I prefaced my school year.
Right.
And I'll be like, I'll misspell some things. I might mispronounce some things. We might have to look up some stuff together.
Right.
Also, you're going to make mistakes too. I'm going to make mistakes. But at the core, I just care about who you are as a person.
Right.
The content can come later.
Right.
But I want to make sure that the confidence is there that you can achieve in my class.
Oh yeah.
And that is missing. And what I love about you and your husband is that y'all are cultivating that in the home.
Right.
And y'all have got big old shield around them that has just helped them just go out and take the world.
We used to get I think our family, when they were younger, we used to get they used to talk about us all the time. Y'all act like them kids, oh, y'all, my mother-in-law, because whatever they were interested in, we were always going out buying crap, and it was always stuff everywhere. And, even when they were little, our yard looked like a playground. It honestly, and she would say, oh, your house looked like a daycare. Y'all always doing this. Because, one year they all took an interest in music. They all wanted it. So Christopher and John got drum sets. Kenya and Tara got keyboards, and we let them play. And it was loud, and it was
they could have started a band.
Exactly. It was loud, and and they were like, why in the world do y'all? They only gonna play with this stuff for a little while, but that's okay. That's okay. We don't know if they like music unless they play music. Kenya wanted to play the clarinet. Okay, here we go to the music store getting a clarinet. Tara wanted to play violin. Here we go to the, and they played it for a little while, and then they didn't want it anymore. Okay, sell it to somebody else, and we'll move on to, and that's what we did, because I felt like, and my husband also felt like it was important for them to be able to try stuff. I don't want you to ever say I could have been a great whatever, except for I didn't get we didn't want that. So we let them, we let them play. We let them do things. Christopher one time thought he wanted to be a boxer. So here we go to the boxing gym we found out there was a boxing gym over on Rayford Road. Here we go over there. It was like, always something. It was always something with them. And that was fine, and we ran all over the place all the time. We were here, there, everywhere, because, this one had this practice. This one had this practice. Okay. Drop this one off, then go pick that one up. And, but we did it because they needed to feel like they were supported in whatever they wanted to do.
Absolutely.
So now, they get to the point and they're offered opportunities. And I'm like, you can do that. If that's what you want to do it. I'm not sure if I would be a good, yeah, you would. You can do that, and it's important that they know that, it's okay. Go ahead and do it. If you want to do it, do it. I'm there. As long as it doesn't require me to bring bail money, I'm with it. Let's do it. Let's do it. I go ahead, do it. That's my thing. If you want to try it, then try it. If you don't like it, at least you don't like it and why you don't like it, because you actually tried it. I don't want them to ever sit down one day and say, I wonder what would have happened if I had actually been able to do whatever. I don't want them to ever have to do that and be able to say, well, maybe I could have if mama had just, or if daddy had just. I don't want that. I don't ever want that to happen. So I try to do, and I could probably have a whole much bigger house and a whole nicer car and all that stuff if I had said no to some of this stuff. But that's okay. That's okay. It's the little stuff. My kids sent me on a cruise. They sent us on a cruise because, they all got together and said, Mom and Daddy, deserve to go. So they sent us on a cruise. It's little stuff like that, that makes it okay. I might not have this great big house, but I have kids that love me enough to say, okay, here, Mama, here, Daddy, we appreciate y'all, and this is what we're gonna do. Or just, I get joy out of people going, oh, Kenya's so great, or Christopher's so great, or, you know, because that means I raised great people. And that's what
Like,
matters
isn't
the
that the
most.
goal? That should
It
be our
is.
goal.
It is. It should be.
Happy,
Yeah.
happy, good people.
Right. Right.
Happy, good people. We're not saying, because we do know bad people that
Mhm.
have
A lot of
doctorates
things.
and that are
Yeah. Yeah.
MDs and that have all of
Right.
these all these educational accolades. We
Mhm.
know
Mhm.
there are people
Right.
out there that are just no
Right.
good.
Mhm.
But Tonya, you and your husband, y'all are 4 for 4 with happiness.
Yeah.
Children that care about others,
Mhm.
children that care about their community.
Yeah.
I mean, that is spectacular.
Yeah, and that's the and honestly, I don't know
And they're
how we ended
passionate.
up 4 for 4. I don't know how we ended up, you know, but I think it's because they were so close that they rubbed off on each other. I don't think it was
Mhm.
anything that we really did that much. I think they just kind
It
of
was.
but I guess I don't know. It's weird because I don't feel like we did anything that was, we just were here and we just said okay to a lot of stuff. We just said okay to a lot of stuff. And I think that's what a lot of people say, oh, they were spoiled, but they really were not spoiled. We just, you
No.
know, we just allowed them to do whatever, you know. I didn't want them to not be able to do the things they want to do. And that's what it all boiled down to. I just didn't want them to be able to um, sit down one day and wonder what if. I didn't want them to be able to do that. So that's all we did. We just kind of, you know, and there was a lot of times where people like, this doesn't make any sense. Why this just makes no sense? And I'm like,
Right.
well, you know, it doesn't make sense to you, but yeah. Yep.
Absolutely. Let me ask you this. Was there any point where you and your husband kind of struggled with raising the kids, and then like what did y'all do to correct it?
Um, hmm.
Was there any like a struggle point? And then
Not well. I think our biggest struggle was when John was sick, because
mm,
with him being sick, um, it took a whole lot of time away from
mhm,
Kenya and Christopher, because
yes.
he was in Chapel Hill for weeks. So
Mhm,
we did a lot of back and forth, and
mhm,
he one place and me one place, and switching off and that kind of thing. And then every time that he would go back in the hospital, it would throw things off again.
mhm,
So that was probably the biggest thing. That, and whenever my mom died, because she
mhm.
was like the caretaker. She took care of our kids. So
Oh, I
when
get that.
she died, and she died suddenly, it just threw everything upside down. Um,
Mhm,
and I had to get a different job because we couldn't
mhm.
afford childcare. It's just too expensive. It was just too
Oh
much.
my god.
So we had to
Tonya,
work.
it's
Yeah,
2,000,
yeah.
it's like 2,200 in my area in
Yeah,
Chicago.
it's ridiculous. So we had to come up with a system where one of us worked nights, one of us worked days, so that
Mhm,
the other could be there. You know, so our biggest struggle was just trying to. And then, you know, when do we see each other? Because when he's coming, I'm going, and you know, and so it was just a whole. There was a time when we just miss. It was like we were missing each other all the time. And so
a
the kids
season
never
of
had
that.
both of us. They would have one of us. You know, it's so, you know, but we got to the point where we just said, okay, you know what? We're gonna have to start making some sacrifices, and just, you know, so we got to the point where that's when we said, where one goes, we all go. And so, you know, it was just we were together. You know, it was like
I love that.
so it was like, if this one wants to go, if you don't take all of them, then this one doesn't go. Or if,
Mm,
you know, you're invited here, well, we're all going here. I don't think my husband and I took any time to even go away like together until our kids were, I think the first time was last year. That was the first time that we ever went anywhere without all the kids. And like even now, if we do something and one of them can't come, or it just feels wrong. It just feels like we shouldn't be doing it because it's not all of us. So we
Yeah.
all, we all try to be together. But I think that's probably the worst. When John was sick and when my mom died, it was just like it was hard for a minute to just kind of, because not only were we dealing with that, but we were dealing with the emotional stuff, and it was rough. It was really rough.
Yeah.
We just kind of bonded together and relied on each other. And it's weird because my husband and I are truly like, it's weird because I can think something and he does it. Our birthdays are the same day. We are both born on the same day, but 6 years apart. So
oh my God, this is meant to be, Tonya.
Yeah. We're both, our birthday is May 22nd, both of us. And it's weird because, just like, matter of fact, like Christmas, I love chocolate covered cherries. That's my thing around Christmas time. And I'm in the store and I picked up a couple of boxes and I come home and there's like 4 boxes on the table. And I'm like, are you kidding me, man? And he's like, what? And then I pull out the ones I bought and he was like, so I ended up giving out boxes at work because we had all these cherries at the house. Because we do it all the time. And it's like he'll sit there and he'll say, you know what I want? And I'll go, I don't know, but I sure would like. And I'll say it and he'll be like, that's exactly what I was getting ready to say. And we think so much alike, and we are like, we know each other so well. It's crazy.
Y'all are partners in life.
Yeah, it's crazy. We are so much alike. And the kids always say, Mama, you and Daddy y'all like each other today? Are y'all liking each other today? Is it okay? And I'm like, okay, leave us alone. Y'all know how we are. Just leave us alone. But yeah, and so the kids, they laugh about it all the time. But we truly, it's like, it's weird. The closeness is kind of, people don't get it sometimes.
No, it's beautiful.
It's crazy.
It's beautiful. It is beautiful. It's a life worth living. I mean, this is how it should be. Tonya, let me ask you this, because I mean, I love the blueprint that y'all have set. What advice would you give parents?
My thing is to trust your kids. They're kids, but if you trust them and give them options, you'll allow them to grow into the person they want to be. That's my thing. Trust them. If they say that something's wrong, it doesn't feel right to them, then leave it alone. It doesn't feel right to them, let it go. If anything, trust them. A lot of times we don't listen to kids because we think, oh, well, they don't really know. They don't know what's good for them. But people know what feels right. If they don't know anything else, they know what feels right and what feels wrong. So, as long as they're not saying, oh, I want to quit school and I want to drop out and just not be in it. Let them, if they want to try this or try that, let them. If they say, oh, I don't like it, don't try to make them stay in it. Even if you think they're good at it, if it doesn't make them happy, if it's not what they want, let them leave it alone. And let them go and explore and find out what it is they like. Because when we don't allow that, I think that's how we end up with people who work their entire lives with something they don't enjoy and they're not truly happy, because we never allowed them to find out what really was good or what really made them happy. And so then you end up with people that are working just a job, and they're not happy and they're unfulfilled. And that's not a good thing. So allow them. I mean, Kenya wanted to be a lawyer from the time she was maybe 9, 10 years old. She knew that's what she wanted. She knew. Christopher always knew that he wanted sports. He wanted to play, but when he couldn't play, he found out what else he could do in it, and he always knew that's what he wanted to be around. John knew he wanted to produce. He didn't know what he wanted to produce, but he knew he wanted to do something. So I let him, and Tara, she was always creative. She always wanted to do things with art, and she always wanted to explore. First, she wanted to be an architect. So we let her take architecture classes, and then she decided that is not what I want to do. I want to do something else in design. So we said, okay, what do you want to do? And then she went toward graphic design and marketing. So I always, let them decide. A lot of times we parents live through their kids, and and don't live through them. Let them choose their own path. And let them just be and let them feel like they are able to trust you with their feelings and with what they feel, and a lot of times kids don't trust us because we don't listen to what they're saying, or we try to steer them elsewhere and say, no. And sometimes you have to, because sometimes, they're going off a cliff and they don't know they're going off a cliff.
Right. When it's detrimental to their well-being.
Right. But if they're just saying, I'd rather play baseball than take piano, then let them play baseball. If that's what they rather do, just because you have dreams of one day being a concert pianist doesn't mean that they do. So let them do that, and that's my thing. Just trust them to make those decisions, because they're not always wrong. They're not always wrong.
Yeah, that's some really good advice. And I'm over here taking notes too,
I'm sure she will be fine.
Yes, I really I'm really toying with the idea of school, though. The way school is going.
Right.
The way there are, I hope that in the future there are teachers that are passionate about sticking through it and and cultivating and helping parents with their children.
Right.
Teachers are up against a lot. I really think the administrators really need to step up and support these teachers, give them what they need.
They do.
Treat them like adults and professionals. And the mass shootings, I'm over. I don't know what that is. I could never go back into a school system. They tell me I have to do these drills. I can't see putting my child in that system. So it's a little bit more dangerous right now. So I'm kind of toying with that, but I agree with you 100%. And I told my husband, I was like, hey, listen, whatever she wants to become, and in good reason, we need to be like, okay, let's see if you like that.
Right. Exactly. And I'll tell you, my brother, his daughter, she did private school for a while, and then they put her in online school, and they both work from home. He and his wife both work from home, and she's 18 now, and they're looking at college. And Kennedy is like, she's like weird smart. This child is she's one of those, she's into STEM. She's very, this is a child that wanted to have her birthday party at the Museum of Natural Sciences.
I like that.
She
should invite me.
And she does computer coding. Her daddy's taught her coding, and she's like freakishly smart. And he's like, they're trying to think about college for her. And he said, she's going to do community college first, because he's into tech and that kind of thing. That's what he does. And he's like, there's just so many alternative routes. And like right now, she never went to traditional school because he said, she just was not one who was, first of all, because she's so freakishly smart, she's like a little awkward. And he didn't want her bullied, and he didn't want her, and so she never went the traditional route. So, and with school these days, there's so many different options. You don't have to go the traditional route. So, I mean, there's homeschool. They've got the public online schools now. They got so much. So, I mean, you got a lot to choose from.
I love the fact that he's starting her off at community college. Like that's not a bad thing either. Like let's just try it out and see, like you said. But there's a lot to think about. There's a lot to think about. And really, is she gonna really go to school in the United States? I don't know if she will. I don't know if she will, me knowing all of the ins and outs. And so for now, I have taught 3 homeschool sisters from same parents. They are all thriving. Very social, intelligent. They're all business minded.
Oh, okay.
And just amazing. And I'm just like, you see these, and her and her husband kind of have the same mindset as you and your husband. So it's kind of like there are blueprints to help. Very confident in what they want to pursue. And just like you and your husband, parents were like, hey, they got to try some stuff.
Right. Definitely. Yeah.
Got to try some stuff.
Nothing wrong with it. I'm telling you.
Right. Tonya, my last question, because I think this, oh my God, I could talk to you for years. What do you and your family look forward to in the future? What do you look forward to?
Oh Lord. I look forward to seeing not only where they go in their careers, but where they go as people. Will they ever get married? Will they ever have will I ever have any grandchildren? Well, I mean, I just cannot wait to see where they go. Especially, with their careers, where are they going to go? What's going to happen? I just can't wait to see where it goes. The thing that I look forward to the most is being here to see it. That's the thing I want. I just want to be here to see it. I hope that I live a very long life so that I can see it. So that I can see everything. Cause I'm even especially with my girls, because literally neither one of them's ever had a boyfriend or a girlfriend or whatever they're into. I don't even know. I can't wait to see what they're into. Especially with Kenya. I tell her all the time, I say, you do, because there's a boy that hangs around her all the time, and she's like, no, Mom, no.
But he like her.
He does, but she. And I tell my husband, I said, I think you ruined them for other people because you spoiled them, and it's they're gonna be looking for somebody to keep them like Daddy kept them, and it's just not like it's hard for a man to step in and say, I can be that protector and that person for you when you stand over here and you always, but I can't wait, especially to see what kind of people they end up sharing their lives with. The boys, I think both of them are pretty well settled. But
they're taken.
They are, and they have great girls. Both of them are great. I love them both. Really smart, really supportive, great girls, both of them. And I hope they end up, marrying them one day, not now, because neither one of them ready. But one day, but I can't wait just to see where their lives end up. Yep.
Oh,
that's
my
the
God.
One thing I cannot wait to see.
That's spectacular, Tonya. This has been such a fantastic catching up session with Tonya. I am so excited that she gave us tidbits on parenting, relationships, building, maintaining friendships, being happy in life. Thank you so much.
Oh, you are welcome. You are very welcome.